Ultimately, there's one question. Are we giving life a hearty yes or not? How do we work through that negative self-judging aspect of ourselves to come into that graceful greatness where we can really create and be in that fuck yeah life energy?
Hello and welcome to The Secret of My Success, where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling life. I am your host, Erin Currin. Today I am speaking with Jackson Strong, who is the co-founder and chief servant officer of Aurea, who's a live event mastermind and retreat organization dedicated to serving purpose-driven entrepreneurs and furthering humanity's awakening through transformational experiences. After spending a decade in the high-paced corporate world, Jackson now blends mystical insights with grounded, results-driven approaches to spiritual entrepreneurship. Jackson helps leaders step into their highest purpose while harmonizing material success with deep spiritual fulfillment. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. And if you enjoy the conversation, please give us a like. All right, excellent. So today I have on the podcast Jackson Strong. Jackson, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Very excited to be here, and what a cool initial connection that we had, and here at a really amazing next chapter. So really excited to dive in and appreciate what you're doing here.
Thank you. I'm excited too because it's been a number of years since we've connected.
Yeah. 5 years, just over 5 years since this started. Almost exactly. I wonder what the exact day was, because it was definitely January of 2020 when we met. So this is almost exactly 5 years.
Well, today's January 30th, so it's probably been a full 5 years, maybe plus a couple of days.
That's wild. Yeah, wild.
And that might be why we had so many scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, we needed to hit our 5-year anniversary, and now here we are. And geez, as soon as shortly after we met, COVID hit, and the world is a whole different world now. And man, so many things. So yeah, really excited to dive in. And you made a major impression on me at gratitude training, and there's a whole thing to dive into there. And just really enjoy and respect you as a creator, as a leader, as someone seeking to bring more light, more love, more peace to the world. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be here.
That means a lot because, we met through gratitude training. I was coaching your part one. Mm-hmm. And during that training, I know you were wrestling with a lot of different aspects of your life. And at the beginning of the podcast, I asked people to get us started in a place that they had some sort of a paradigm shift. So I'll let you start us off where you would like to get the story started, and then we'll pick up whatever aspects we need to as we fill in the blanks.
Yeah. Whew. Deep breath into the paradigm shifts. Man, there's so many. So the one that's most relevant to this would be, or the biggest one to start with at the time, was the shift over to Miami. And ironically, I also exchanged messages with Bianca, who I was there with earlier today. I had this really strong urge to send her, the woman I was dating at the time. And in some over the holidays, I had a solo plant medicine journey. Really went deep on some deep parts of myself and my life. And she came through as an important person to reach out to and share some gratitude with, ironically. And so I'd kind of been procrastinating it until last night. Incidentally, I sent her a message and just thanked her for the catalyst that she was in my life, and the huge paradigm shift that she opened up in my inner world, and in the transition to Miami from over in Naples where I'd been. And we went to high school together. I'm not sure if I told you this before, maybe I did, but I knew her since I was 15 years old. Like, as far as people that are in my world that I have any level of communication with, she's among the earliest people that I talked to. And you know, I was crazy about her in high school, just for the record, Bianca, if you're out there. And thankfully we went through some really cool transitions and spent a few months in Tulum together during COVID. And now she's engaged and has a family, and like this whole like beautiful world's opening up for her. And if you do hear this, Bianca, so freaking happy for you, and just love what you're doing, and what she's created is really beautiful, and a super intelligent, talented healer, and really beautiful to see her on her way, and some really amazing paradigm shifts to bring them up in her world. So, when I was in that time, I was leaving the corporate world for the last time, going into more purpose driven work, and started my own marketing company and mindset coaching companies that evolved into. And there was something I was just talking about earlier today with an ally of mine, and talking about the journey of entrepreneurial mental health, and how, for myself and many others, there's the program or the belief or the hope that when we leave corporate, we're going to experience nirvana, and that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And then we start doing what we love, and we go, holy shit, this is scary. This is really hard. And oh man, I don't know if I can do this. And every single shadow, every single limiting belief, every single everything for me and for many others is going to come up. And working through that is incredibly difficult. And painfully, but honestly, we set the intention of telling the truth here. One of the former business partners of the man that I was talking to today, he killed himself yesterday, which is a pretty crazy place to begin this conversation, but it's,
Wow.
yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
And, this human experience thing ain't easy, and it's beautiful. It's rewarding. It's invigorating. It's fulfilling. It's terrifying. It's agonizing. And, it takes a lot to get through it and to celebrate it. And however I can share, more details as this conversation unfolds, that wakes up more passion, more purpose, more resilience in anyone listening to this. That's a big part of why I'm here. And there's been, a few major paradigm shifts since then, but it feels right to kind of take a breath there for a moment, and see
Mm.
where we go to next here.
For sure. I think it's interesting because, a moment ago we were talking about full circle, 5-year anniversary of when we met and connected, and our coaching relationship. And I know that your self confidence, your self worth, a lot of you were just getting into the entrepreneurial journey, if I recall correctly. And you
Pretty
were
much.
also, yeah, you were also dealing with some of those ideas about, self harm and just like, am I worthy? Am I worth it? This whole idea of imposter syndrome. And I love what you say. It's when we're in that corporate structure, we're running on that gerbil wheel so fast, we really don't have the time to deal with the shadows. And
Hmm.
and it's perfect. I love the way you framed that, where all of a sudden you burst out into this space where you think, oh, I'm living my purpose. It's just going to be sunshine and rainbows and unicorn farts, and it's all just amazing. And that's not what happens, because you're stripping away. In my experience, when I tried it the first time, it was stripping away all of the distractions that kept me from hearing
Hmm.
those deeper voices,
Oh
those
yeah.
those recordings. Because Joe Dispenza and many others talk about, we have 70 to 80,000 thoughts in a day that are running through our subconscious, most of which we're not aware of, and many of them are not self-serving.
Hmm.
So why don't we touch on that a little bit, where we got started 5 years ago? Well, first of all, let me say I'm sorry to hear about your friend, business partner. It is real. It is something that we all deal with. And most people have this idea that if they're thinking about self harm, if they're thinking about suicide, that there's something wrong with them. And the truth is, we've all engaged the thought or entertained it on some level if we've been through any level of an honest, self reflective conversation. there's been that question for everyone. I don't care who you are unless you're really lying to yourself. It's just kind of my personal belief. And the more honest we are about that being a conversation, and how I like to call it like a devilish function, it's something that tries to keep you in place. It tries to keep you from striving from that better, that next level, that purpose, to sort of keep you placated, like at that level. If you're not aware that that's a real thing, then you're probably not as likely to reach out for help, to have a conversation with somebody, to release some steam. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
Where
Well,
would you like to get started?
yeah, I mean, I think it's a great place, and the devilish function is a cool way of saying something that, I one of my favorite teachers on a similar topic is Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art, Turning Pro, and he
Mhm.
talks about resistance and the way you describe a similar concept around that playing smallness, that not worthiness, that staying in your frame, that not expressing your art, that being in that fractured, small, shameful, at the simultaneously arrogant, simultaneously aggrandizing, simultaneously destroying, like that whole egoic concept, and being in that from a, even from a Kabbalah perspective, I think the Yetzer Hara is the right name for it. And there's all these different traditions from Christianity to the mystics. They're all talking about this anti-us thing that's in our psyche, that does not want us to go up into our purpose, go up into our passion, go up into, for me, divine harmony and serving the muse and receiving guidance and being in this beautiful, inspired state. It's like, no, you are not worthy. Don't go there. Get the fuck away from all that. Da 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 da. Right. And our will and our ability to create a calm nervous system where we can feel like it's okay, it's safe to go up into that, and have a tribe of people that are with us on the journey, and have, doing the deep work in our own individual world, so we're not dealing with codependent issues. Which, speaking of Bianca, just speaking from the hard truth of my experience, worked through a lot of codependent stuff with her, where, mostly unbeknownst to me, I was in a codependent state in a lot of ways. And that's something that we all, many of us, need to work through. And certainly was a big part of my journey, and the paradigm shifts of being able to, especially now, have that divine relationship where I'm seeking a will higher than my own, a guidance, greater than my ego can think of, or, like Sam Harris says, the consciousness that lives behind my face. When that consciousness that lives behind my face is looking for something bigger than me, that's what I'm seeking to connect to, while maintaining a sense of individual sovereignty and decisiveness around, okay, this is what I see and love, and this is what I really feel like I'm here in this world to do. And, like, I feel like I've gotten the vision now, like that's the one. Okay, turbochargers, let's go. We're gonna go do this thing. So yeah, to kind of like fill that loop, there is like, how do we work through that negative potentiality, or that negative self-judging, self-harming aspect of ourselves, to come into that graceful greatness where we can really create and be in that artistry and be in that fuck yeah life energy. And there's a quote from Joseph Campbell that comes to mind, and I'll take a pause. It's like, he said, as you may already know, one of the greatest mythical historians of all time, he said, ultimately there's one question: are we giving life a hearty yes or not? All the philosophies, all the chakras, all the meditations, all the Bhagavad Gita and the Bible, and like all of it, like, are we in it? Like, are we here? So
Yeah.
here's to being in it.
Yes, true. One of my favorite quotes, thoughts, questions is, Einstein once said the biggest question you can ask yourself is whether the universe is a friendly place,
Hmm.
because everything else comes from that.
Hmm.
And the more I share that idea with podcast guests, with people that I talk to, the more I understand it on deeper levels because I was having a challenge a few weeks ago, and it's one of those, the patterns and the habits, and I practice Nichiren Buddhism, and we believe that the environment is a direct reflection of the self. And so,
Mm,
karmically speaking, it wouldn't be in my face if it wasn't in my space. Like,
mm,
it's a law.
yeah.
I can blame the person who's standing in front of me all I want to, but if it keeps coming up in my stream, if it's showing up on my stage, then there's some vibrational aspect or some thought pattern of me that's continuing to create that.
Mm,
And I got a text that was like the same shit, different day. And I'm like, why the fuck am I still dealing with this inside of my district? Who are these people? And I got, wait, if the universe is a friendly place, if I really believe, if I'm planting my flag on that hill,
mm,
then why am I saying that this person is out to get me, or that
mm,
person is trying to circumvent or undermine or
mm,
whatever? And it created a massive shift for me. And it's kind of like, one of the things that you were pointing to a minute ago is this idea of emotional regulation, calming the nervous system, really bringing ourselves down to having things internally be at a level where we're not in fight or flight, we're not fleeing for our lives, where we can actually review the tape
mm,
and see, is that really what they said? Is that really what's going on here? And what
yeah.
am I bringing to this? And then the other dimension is, if we realize that it's about the journey and not about the destination, then I get more curious about the path and why it's going the way that it is. Because
Mm,
I remember, I think you were at the beginning of your relationship with Bianca,
mm,
when we met. And I love how you're still connected with her now, and wishing the best for her, because apparently that relationship served its purpose. And so
we
there's an
graduated
evolution.
from each other at a certain point.
Yes. It's like, the cliche expression, people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Hmm.
And that sort of speaks to that, where if I'm thinking that everything has to be the same as it always has been, then I'm not able to open up to the gift of the possibility of what's next.
Hmm. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So talk to me about your journey, because you are in a wildly different place 5 years later, from what I
Yeah.
understand.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know that much other than what little bits I've seen on social media. So share.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So, went through COVID together, and we were living together in Miami. And then, as I mentioned, we went down to Tulum in August of 2020, and ended up meeting the owner of a really awesome hotel down there, Holistica. What's up, Tony? Hope you're doing great. Love your place. Hope to visit you again soon. And ended up befriending Tony, the owner, and he offered me to stay as a marketing trade for room and board and food. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. So I lived down there for like 3 months, and had a ton of amazing experiences, and got to see and experience Tulum in some really great ways. And went through some really deep parts of myself down there, and some challenging moments with Bianca, and the way that we reacted to each other in within the container of COVID, and all the stress and the entrepreneurial stuff that came along with all that. And that was one of many alchemical fires that I've been through. And coming back to the States in late 2020, and then we separated in early 2021. And that's where again, like I mentioned, a lot of that codependent stuff came through. And there's a really amazing author named Ross Rosenberg I went really deep on. His book, Human Magnet Syndrome, is one I recommend many, many times. And in his words, codependency is really self-love deficit disorder. And people with SLDD, as he calls it, we oftentimes will see someone else who is in their expression, who's in an apparent state of real vibrancy and confidence and here I am world energy, and we go, oh, look at you, like you've got the thing that I can't do, like you've got the self-love thing, consciously or subconsciously, and we want to like help them and feed them and do things for them, and then we just become more and more drained and more out of a real loop of sovereignty, and we cause a lot of chaos and a lot of pain for ourselves and others. And I can say with a compassionate heart to myself that I did a lot of that, and thankfully painfully got to work through that. And I do believe, going back to your concept of the universe a friendly place, it's friendly is a big word, and I definitely will say it's benevolent, and I do believe that it's a school, and there's some kind of creator spirit that envelops it all, and that whatever we call Earth or Gaia or God or the Creator, or however we each individually find our conception of the divine, I do believe that there is purpose within it, and there is a self-aware creator that we are simultaneously one with and individually aware of our separateness from, and we kind of dance back and forth in our consciousness between those two worlds, and we're climbing and descending Mount Olympus, so to speak, in kind of a Pressfieldism on what how he conceives reality, and many others, but he synthesizes in such a beautiful way. And again, The War of Art, Turning Pro, Mount Rushmore books for me. So went through 2021, a lot of deep work, a lot of like really difficult self-reflection, dated a couple really amazing women in that process, went deeper into my entrepreneurial world. And then on late 2021, I was on a kayaking trip with a woman I was seeing at the time. What's up, Liliana? Hope you're doing amazing. And thank you for the wisdom you shared with me. And had the vision to do a men's trip down to the Everglades. And I grew up in South Florida, spent a lot of time down there, hung out with a lot of dinosaurs and birds and sketchy situations. So we came back for the men's trip, had an idea to do a summit, and that became our first big summit, which became Aurea, which is the organization that I lead now and that I'm most invested in. And that pretty much is my absolute obsession. My journey to cure the existential angst and the worthiness and the emotional pain that we got to touch into at Gratitude and afterwards. It was me searching for an environment in which I felt whole, and that you talk about that macro micro harmony, and I was searching for people that I found inspiring, and that I felt similar to, and that I felt were authentic, and there's so much fakeness in the corporate world, and so much honestly fakeness in me, and masks and ways I was trying to show up, and like, hey, love me if I do this, and like, hey, blah 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 blah, in authenticity. I'm blessed to have been surrounded by really amazing guides and teachers, both when I was leading my marketing company and really focused on purpose-driven entrepreneurs and leaders. I got to really surround myself with amazing coaches like yourself and others. And now concluding this riff here is it's beautiful to see my life become a mirror of the version of me that I've learned to remember in the process. And I feel like the awakening spiritual journey is far more a chiseling away of the false beliefs and an allowing in of the remembrance of who we really are. And as you may know, to educate is the root is to educe. To educate ourselves is to allow, to educe what is already inside out. And so if you're listening to this, inviting you to allow more of you to be seen in its truth, and watch as life rewards you for that.
Really, really powerful. Thank you for the snapshot of the 5-year journey, because it's, again, I mentioned this before, it is remarkable to see you now after knowing you then, because I mean your entire visage
Yeah.
has shifted. For those of you who are familiar with the podcast, Cesar Rodriguez is also one of those people who went through a plant medicine ceremony. He was in marketing, and now he's in Costa Rica leading plant
Hmm.
ceremony and men's circles. And he went from a very corporate, very structured, very clean shaven to a very natural and open and accepting sort of a thing. Now, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that just because you've decided to awaken spiritually that all of a sudden you need to start wearing saffron robes and, have bells.
It's a law. No, you need to put on the performance and fake spirituality so that you can be
Yeah.
accepted in another mask. It's way more important, Aaron. Like
Yeah.
it's
Well, that's
which is a
where
major risk. Like the ego can very quickly go, "Oh, I'm accepted over in this thing now, and now I can be this performative side of me," and that's a huge issue in society. And yeah, go ahead.
I think that that's just part of being human
Yeah.
because again, we're dealing with two sides of the coin. There's the aspect of the soul that really wants to lean into the authentic expression, but then there's the other side that wants to keep you playing small, and so it becomes really easy to just create a cliff note, kind of a cheap and easy way to look spiritual. It must mean that, oh, if I, have the ankh and I have the, if I have the different accoutrement, if I've got, if I smell like Nag Champa, if I,
Yeah.
whatever. And there are times when I meet certain people who look like that spiritual aspect. I look more corporate. And the reality is, there are people who need to hear the message in a certain way to be able to connect.
Hmm.
So I feel like, and what you were saying a minute ago is it's really easy to get captivated by it looking a certain way.
Hmm.
If it's truly an authentic expression, more power to you, lean into it.
Yeah.
Um, but there also is kind of a trap.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Huge one.
it's, and it's more of
And I've
a,
been in that trap. Like if I'm honest, I mean, I've been at times in the past more concerned about seeming like a good person and seeming spiritual, whatever that even means, like a jillion different meanings for spiritual, than really like stepping up and doing like being like the good man that's needed to step up and do the difficult things. And every day is a journey of stepping towards the fire and not avoiding problematic things and having difficult conversations. And I'm not flawless at that. There's things I can think of right now that I've been avoiding that I need to go tackle after this.
yes.
And yeah, and having for me simultaneously courage and compassion are like I think the two pillars of the human experience on so many levels. And if we can courageously pursue that which is difficult and that which is needed, and be able to hold ourselves in a graceful way, and especially for the SLDD sufferers out there and the self-love, crew that's seeking to transmute shame into success, man, is compassion the baseline? Otherwise, it just becomes just the inner tyrant takes over, and we treat ourselves poorly, and then inevitably we treat others in ways that are not optimal.
I agree 100%. I'm a firm believer in critical thinking.
Mm.
And I love when you say lazy debating, because we have this tendency nowadays to speak in sound bites. We
Oh
pick up
yeah.
a couple of pointers from our camp.
Oh yeah. We're so manipulated.
We
Yeah.
are manipulated,
Oh yeah.
and then when somebody wants to have an honest conversation to find out, like, what are your beliefs truly, well, if I start down this path, then I'm labeled. If I start down that path, then I'm labeled.
Totally.
And it creates such an inauthentic environment, because
Mm-hmm.
it's really then about the fear of being discovered.
Mm.
It's about the fear of being on the wrong side. So you need to defend at all possible costs because you don't want to be burned at the stake of the
Mm.
opposite camp.
Yeah.
And I really think that right now, one of my, I, I guess you could call it a concern, or one of the aspects of my mission is really to create a safe space where people can explore a lot of these ideas that they
Mm-hmm.
haven't necessarily felt safe or comfortable exploring previously.
Mm-hmm.
To
Yeah.
be able
Well,
to
safe
have those,
space. Let's talk.
well, like to have those
Yeah.
really challenging conversations
Yeah.
where
Same.
I don't know if you're going to approve of my opinion, and I know that you're such a safe space that I can say it anyway.
Yeah. Well, for anyone listening, I hope that you feel safe. And for me here speaking, I'm here to activate my safety. And Erin, thank you for those intentions, because we as humans, we desperately, or we deeply fear that ostracization of being kicked out of the tribe, and it keeps us being fake and then not being able to really speak the truth. And so having relationships where we know we can really count on people, and that, hey, we might not agree on everything, but I unconditionally accept who you are, and I can disengage that laziness and that like calorie saving mechanism where, like, okay, Erin, you are this, therefore I am that, therefore now you're here. Okay, cool. You're a set of sunglasses and she's a phone, and now I've got a desk and everything's organized. And this is really, really limited and simple, but I feel relaxed. Like that's not the ultimate optimal expression of who and what we are. And speaking of plant medicines and the whole awakening spiritual journey and everything, there's a big moment that happened to me last year. I went to Burning Man for the first time, and there was in the first few days of the journey, I noticed myself really judging people. And I saw, like, this guy and these clothes, and therefore he's that, or he's like a druggie, and this guy's over here, and I'm superior in some kind of way because I'm taking this more spiritually, and therefore I'm better. And I had an experience, with some psychedelics involved, where I was like, oh no, oh, I'm being so judgmental of everyone. And then it was like, oh no, I'm judging myself so harshly. And it became a challenging experience, but it was this deep introspective life review process where psychedelics have a beautiful potential to do that, especially if we're in a safe space where we feel like we can really go into those depths, which thankfully I'm surrounded by this miracle worker teachers and healers and dear friends of mine to really help me process the somatic emotions and like move through that stuff, where I didn't just get stuck in my experience where, like, I'm in this like traumatized state of emotion. I can move through it. And the beautiful thing on the other side of it that that I really got to feel and experience was a huge upgrade in the purity of observation mode, and inviting anyone listening to this to reflect on your ability to truly observe reality as you perceive it, and to feel the somatic, energetic, emotional shift of when you withdraw your projections and your unintegrated shadow parts and your laziness, and you just see people in the purity of the present moment. And when that happened, and I really had this profound shift, is like I could see like I could see like the particles in people's faces. And just being here with you now, like I see like the detail of your hair and the colors in the background and the flowers and your necklace and like your glasses, your smiling face, your rosy cheeks, and just like this beautiful emotion that gets to develop as we're both really present with each other. And when we can create that, and both of us know that we're here as two temporary human beings working on figuring things out, using our best mental facilities, our deepest sense of heart, our spiritual evolution to figure out, like, what is this experience we're having and how can we show up in the purest way with each other. Man, it's such a beautiful shift from the tension and the of judgment into the beauty of being really fucking here without judgment.
I agree. It's fantastic that you went there because a few minutes ago you were talking about the judgment of the space, and I'm a phone and you're a this and he's a that and I have a desk and la la la, and now I can feel relaxed.
Right.
there's that false sense of security from things being predictable and under control. But what you're pointing to is the the trust of true deep faith
Mm.
in the universe and in source and in like my current expression, when I really am able to not just go through the OCD checklist as to whether the door is locked and the cats are okay and the oven is off and the iron is put away and all of this other drama. It's more like everything is how it is regardless of how it is. And now can I really be with it such that I'm so open and aware that I am settled.
Hmm.
And that is a completely different experience.
Yeah.
But it takes, like you were talking earlier about really calming the nervous system. So 5 years ago you were having a certain experience with your nervous system, and now you're having a
Mm.
completely different experience. What kind of tools have you used? I get that, team mentors, guides have been key for you, but is there something that you can share with people who are listening? They might be stuck in a corporate structure. They might not be able
Yeah.
to just jump off of the cliff.
Yeah.
Where did you get started and what would you recommend?
Yeah. Yeah. So no matter where you are right now, no matter what your judgments or perceived challenges or gratitudes or enthusiasms for your experience are, to me, the most important baseline to cultivate is the feeling of like, this is exactly right. Whatever challenges you're facing, whatever passions that you have, inviting you to release any and all judgments on what the experience you're having is. Is it right? Is it wrong? Do I need to quit? Do I need to stay here? Do I stay with my husband? Do I leave my wife or my kids or this or that? It's so much of being in the mind. And for me, my ability to have learned, studied, remembered how to discern when I'm in the mind and the consciousness behind my face and the pain and the concealed agony of that, and being able to breathe and chill the fuck out and drop into the somatic state, into the body, into the resonance of the heart. And it's so easy in my past to say like, okay, that's bullshit, I'm out. But the more that I've learned about the biological facts of the neurons that exist in our heart, in our gut, and how 80% of them flow north, they flow up to our heads. We're actually receiving heart consciousness from the neuronal pathways of our heart organ. What the fuck? When we're receiving information up from our guts, and including our microbiome and our parasites and all that weird crazy stuff that controls our minds in like some really bizarre ways that like we really don't want to admit to. And we can come back to that one if you want to. I've got some allies in my world that are really deep on the parasite life, and the level of influence they have over us is shockingly higher than like we might think. But it's the most important piece again is the context of rightness. And that, whether you're homeless on the street or you're in jail, like that's the thing that you needed to be experiencing. If you're about to go bankrupt or whatever, it's like, okay, like this is the upgrade you're being invited into. This is the threshold guardian to the next step on your hero's journey. And being able to create a context around our experience. Joseph Campbell in the hero's journey has been massively informative for me, where I can realize that, okay, this isn't just chaos. This isn't just pain. And is the universe friendly or not? Is it purposeful or not? Is it meaningful or not? Is there a guiding light that's shining outside of us or not? Is there a pathway to like peace and joy or not? That's those are the big questions that we get to ask. And the more that I'm able to find that inside myself, And the more I see miraculous synchronicities and the right person at the right time with the right gift and all this, these beautiful things, that's where I find the ability to go cocoon and this like downshifting of experience where the anxiety levels come down and my higher mind and intelligence can shine. And that's I think the massive first required step, whether you're in a place of tension or you're in a place of triumph, being able to recontextualize our experience in order to receive a higher sense of wisdom from the heart, from spirit, from our creator, without, religious trappings. I do believe there is an intelligent force that has brought us to life. And that's what I seek to resonate with and receive from.
Mm.
Then we can navigate most effectively from there.
Yeah. I think what I hear inside of what you're sharing is really when I tap back into that breath, when I just,
Yeah.
sometimes it's as easy as just one simple pause. You know, what is it? You count to five, whatever. And sometimes when I'm feeling really particularly wound up, I just need to go sit down for a couple of seconds.
Mm.
Just go sit down, stop trying to cycle about whatever,
Mm.
because when we're in those higher, more tightly wound brain patterns, then we're dropping into a more narrow pathway, and you're
Mm.
trying to send more energy through a smaller tunnel,
Mm.
and it's only going to make the pressure higher.
Yeah.
And of
And then we
course
have
then,
to start boxing people. Like we don't have the resources to deal with like the discomfort of, oh, I don't know who this person is. I'm kind of in the mystery of who you are. And maybe you are okay. Maybe I'm not okay. And like if that baseline of safety is up here, then we can't observe. We have to find that first piece to navigate from there. So I don't mean to cut you off. I just a lot of enthusiasm around this, as you can tell.
absolutely, no, it's okay. It's totally okay. This is a co-creation.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, of course, if you think about the different aspects of the brain, when we're cycling that high and we're that nervous and we're that afraid, we're in the lizard brain.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of conscious thought that's going on. It's a much narrower view of life, and
Yeah.
everything is fear-based. It's all
Yeah.
danger.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah,
Whereas,
compulsively seeking safety and compulsively not hearing other people, or I'm right because of this and you're wrong because of that, and we're gonna go to war over this. It's like, whoa,
yeah.
whoa, none of that was really needed. Yeah, so getting into that unified state and creating from a place of unity consciousness where we can really see that, I'm honoring you as another version of me. I'm honoring other people that I may disagree with, but I have the compassion to see, like, if I grew up in the shoes of someone who was, a Zionist Jew, and then I could see how they'd want to, destroy Palestine, which is a horrific disaster. And if I grew up in the shoes of someone, who was, a Muslim whose family had been, blown up in a rocket strike, could we see how we have compassion? Someone might become a terrorist. Those are really deep, hard things to realize. But like coming back to that shadow aspect and the realization that we all have the potential for massive darkness. And I see my doggy in the background. She had surgery, has a little cone on her head. If y'all see that moving around back there. But recognizing that, none of us, even with scarves and necklaces and all this, which I enjoy, I think it's beautiful and it has meaning to me. We don't need to pretend that we don't have a shadow side. And, Debbie Ford, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers is a book you might be aware of. Spectacular book. And it's so easy for spiritual people, quote unquote, to like do you're wrong, I'm right, because now I'm innocent. Now I feel comfortable. It's like, no, bruh. We are all of it. We are a full spectrum being. And the more that we reject those shadow aspects and say that we're not bad, we're good, I'm good, I got crystals. It's like it's this upper echelon nervous system dysregulated trauma that makes us like yearn to be this, like, I'm a good person, like, look at me. And it's like, no, you just got some shadow work to do, but you are good. And like all of us, we got some stuff, that we were all working on alchemizing and integrating. And there's a real cool piece that comes up for me next is the archetypal work. Is that something that you've spent much time or familiar with?
Not really a whole lot. I mean, I'm familiar with the idea, but not
Yeah.
really. What is that? How does that work for you?
Yeah, yeah, it's super transformative for me. It's one of the schools of thought and spirituality and philosophy that is most alive for me right now.
Mm.
And Carl Jung talked about it a lot. There's a lot of great books, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, and The Women Who Run with Wolves, and some really great writing on it. And it's the concept is essentially that there's aspects of us that exist as elements of consciousness as a whole that are like these meta beings, really, that have existed from the dawn of time, pretty much. And we can look at them as like philosophical concepts, um, and or we can view them as almost like self-aware, like aspects of consciousness that we can interact with. So depending on your own philosophical bent, it's up to you to decide that. But what these schools of thought really are describing, the reality that they are inviting us to step into, or at least articulating, is that for men in particular and women, but the male archetypes are king, warrior, magician, lover, as I stated, and that each one has a shadow aspect. So the king has both a weakling and a tyrant shadow. The magician has the manipulator. The lover has the addict. The warrior has the shadow warrior, or like a terrorist type of entity. And one of the things in my past that was most difficult was when I showed up in ways that I found weak, or I found tyrannical or judgmental or manipulative. I could see those parts of myself. I would fall into these huge shame spirals, and I would just savage myself as being unworthy and wrong and broken. There's just something wrong with me because I was aware of those shadows. The perspective of the authors of King, Warrior, Magician, Lover in particular, which was really the spark of my awareness to shift that. Speaking of paradigm shifts, this is a huge one. It's our ability to love the shadow is how we elevate up the emotional ladder, and how we alchemize all of that together, and how we can go through the process of being a complete, healthy, non-judging of self or other being, because we can see how we are this amalgamation of different parts and pieces. And women have their own spectrum, and it's beautiful. It's an incredible part of the human experience. And yeah, I'm really deeply involved in that work. I find it one of the most fascinating things that there is. It's been hugely transformational for me, hugely transformational for the people that I get to serve in a coaching or facilitating context. And these beings, they show up in people's experiences like a fully formed, intelligent, wise guide in people's experiences. And it really is fascinating to me. I don't know exactly what's really happening sometimes, because it's such a clear, benevolent, like ancient feeling wisdom that comes through. But yeah, I love it, and I'm here to keep exploring it.
I really love what you're saying about the archetypes, because one of the aspects that I think is really key is this idea that we all have those dimensions as a part of us. We carry both the light and the dark. And I think that many people get frustrated with what they consider the hypocrisy of, if you think back to like the 40s or the 50s, where the really straight-laced senator is going after the evildoers, and then you find out that he really wears women's clothing and all of
Yeah,
these other things,
so
like
common.
we're talking about, from 60, 70 years ago, that
Oh, it still
was a
happens
thing.
today. I mean, it's still happening. The anti-gay crusaders are secretly gay pedophiles. It's just like, what the hell, man? Like,
Well,
yeah.
exactly. And what it goes to, what it really speaks to, is whatever you resist persists.
Hmm.
And so these conversations that we think we shouldn't have, which I can't even imagine what someone who grows up knowing that they're gay or believing that they're in the wrong body goes through, because society has a particular view or a particular flow or a particular vibe,
Hmm.
and how a child interprets their environment is going to help create the mask
Hmm.
that he or she wears during their life, and then how they express that, and whether
Hmm.
they use that as the baseball bat that they beat other people up with,
Yeah.
rather than really recognizing that each of us steps into our life experience with, I don't know how you what your thoughts are on like soul contracts
Oh,
and
really into that. Let's go there next.
like we create the experience. I believe that we kind of sign up for a particular ride,
Very much.
and we forget that that's what we did before we got here,
Hmm.
because there are certain aspects that we want to experience or that we want to learn, or even karmically things that we'd like to resolve.
Hmm.
And so, for people who think, oh, I don't understand how a child could be raped or abused or these things. It's not like, oh, I signed up for a carnival ride and, this
Hmm.
is all going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
But it is, there is an experience that
Yeah.
comes from that. So yeah,
Oh
go ahead
yeah.
and
Oh yeah. I mean,
share.
I've got a huge piece there because I'm totally with you on like there's such like it's easy for people to make the case like against God or against like spirituality and just like there's just a nihilistic, tragic universe when they see these horrible things that happen, which I get. I deeply get that. And I have a lot of affinity for what you're saying. And my belief to add on to that is that if we are these eternal beings coming in and out of existence into this human form, wanting to experience more of what this reality is, like if we were in heaven all the time, I think we do get bored. And I think that we want to experience something else, and that we're kind of these freaky, kinky souls that are looking for some kicks. And like some of those kicks are really dark. And, what if a soul wants to experience forgiveness? Like, what if a soul wants to experience the 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 gut wrenching resilience, to go through a tragedy, to get paralyzed, to get cancer. What if those are the things that really serve in the creation of a charity that supports not just cancer research in the future, or helps people to reformat their traumas and see that they're not broken. And a dear friend of mine, he fell off a few years ago. He fell off an art car at Burning Man, ironically, and he's paralyzed from the waist down. He's in a wheelchair, and he has a beautiful, powerful perspective. And so, would someone choose to be the victim of a rapist pedophile in order to experience the soul growth experience of forgiveness, to be able to find like that depth of compassion, of spirituality? Like that's fucking spirituality. Like you want to do yoga in Tulum, sure, like that's spiritual, sounds great, I've done it, it's really nice, I had a great time. And you really want to be a spiritual warrior in like a real old soul game, you're probably going to go through some real gnarly shit. So if you're suffering with something, someone listening to this, inviting you to reflect on that and see if it resonates, and see if you can find a deeper perspective on why some of these things might have happened or be happening in your life.
Me personally, there's been a lot of mother-daughter um, angst, violence,
Hmm.
emotional abuse throughout the generations. And as I have worked through a lot of it through plant medicine ceremonies, through coaching, through therapy,
Hmm.
through whatever modalities, um, I'm able to forgive. But it's not just about forgiving, it's also about learning to grieve what I didn't have as a child, what
Hmm.
I feel like I should have had that I can never replace.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I discovered in this last year is as I'm able to grieve and as I'm able to open up that space, then again, talking about stepping out and having this broader view, then I get, well, Erin, you weren't the only person who experienced that hate or that pain or that frustration, because my mother got it from her mother and her sisters had the same experience. And
Yeah.
now all of a sudden I can see the way I was treated and my experience through more compassionate eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a conversation to allow someone to behave badly.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of, okay, great. So I'm here in this experience, and in Hinduism and in Buddhism, they talk about this being the world of illusion,
Mm.
and
Oh, the
and
Maya.
the yeah, we're having this experience, and the house is on fire. Are you going to step outside of the house? Are you going to bring more souls with you when you walk out of the house?
Mm.
Or are you going to continue to sit in the burning building and
Mm.
complain and suffer and struggle?
Mm.
Because pain is a reality, suffering is optional.
Mm.
How deeply do you choose to wallow in whatever that is? It's
Mm.
not that there's not something to be dealt with, because
Mm.
like you say, there's a certain darkness in light work, because there could be a certain arrogance with, well, I've taken this course and I have these crystals and
Oh yeah.
I do this thing. And I really appreciate that somebody like Jordan Peterson has spent much of his life studying evil and really diving into that conversation about what evil is, and the fact that each of us really has the capability to be that dirty, nasty, horrible, mean, awful, there but for the grace of whoever, go I.
Mm.
Why did I not end up being an abuser? Why did I not end up being someone that's created pain for any number of people? Or even more so, how many people did I create pain for when I was feeling my lowest and having an experience of victimhood
Mm.
and justified my abuse
Mm.
of
Oh
those
yeah.
people?
Woo. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a monster right there. The
Mhm.
justified resentments might be one of the great evils of humanity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is really, really a lot to figure out.
Yeah, a lot to remember, I should say. It's a lot to remember, and here's to all of us, remembering who we are as souls,
Yeah.
and there's with gratitude to some really beautiful people that surround me. The remembrance process is something I'm really deeply invested in, and how to find and how to utilize remembrance as a force, as a power of both emotional alchemy and authenticity, so that I'm not in a program or I'm not in an ego game, but I'm giving myself time and space to really allow the heart and soul to speak and to feel that authentic shift and resonance of like, oh wow, like, oh, this is what authenticity really feels like. This is the frequency of like the real fucking truth. And like, wow, what a fun, this is a cool game. It's kind of freaky. This is different. I like this. This is really great. And the more that I give myself time and space to cultivate that, and again, thank you psychedelics as well for this, is being able to be in moments where people are really showing up in their truth. And if it's messy and like crazy and trauma purging, which been a part of plenty of those and really love those moments too, or it's like silly and fun or just like reverential and like looking in someone's eyes and be like, holy fuck, like thank you for being you. This is such a beautiful gift to just be in your presence. It's amazing how those compounds or plant spirits or whatever they are the way I currently conceive of them is they're like glitches to the matrix, and they're like enough of a pattern break where they like kung, like switch off the flow of the ego or the trauma for long enough for us to go like, wow.
So first of all, I'm going to acknowledge that there's lawn equipment outside, and
All good.
I'm going to say this, keeping it in the recording, just precisely because it's fucking funny.
Yeah.
Totally.
Perfect
And
timing.
it's the timing is insane.
What a
And
moment to practice emotional sovereignty and resilience.
well, and that's exactly what I was thinking, because I swear I live in one of the most quiet I've been here for 2 months. It has been so quiet for the 9-10 weeks that I have been here that it's insane that it is happening now for the last half hour, that it has been lawnmowers and leaf blowers and all of this. I'm just going to take it for what it is. And if somebody is listening to the podcast and not able to hear the humor, then they're probably not meant for this podcast anyway.
It is a big cosmic joke that we're living in. And on my side, it's very, very, very quiet, or I can't hear it at all. So as long as you're good, I don't think it's coming through very much.
Well, I've been, kind of paying attention to the bars on the side. And for the most part, for the first little while, I wasn't seeing any sort of feedback showing up. And then all of a sudden I'd start to see a little bit. And it's like, wait a minute.
Quick draw on the mute button, then you'll be okay.
So I was doing that for a little bit, but then I
Cool.
started thinking, but it's getting worse and it's not going away. Where attention goes, energy flows, results show. So, Erin, you're obsessing about, like, why me? Why is this happening? Why is it now? We're having this fantastic conversation and I'm feeling so distracted. Well, can you choose to be present even with all of this going on? So we could go on for hours.
Yeah.
And with adjustments for time for lawn equipment, it would be even worse. It's been absolutely a blast having this conversation with you. I will say, before we wrap up for today, at the least, is there something you would like to circle back to, or something you would like to leave the viewers, the listeners with?
Yeah. The deepest thing that arises in me is the transmutation of shame, and being able to reformat our perception of the challenge that we face from either from a non-spiritual perspective of witnessing the inherent perfection of life and saying, well, these challenges must be perfect too if all these crazy parts and pieces fit together and my circulatory system does all of its magical things and the butterflies and the flowers and all these things fit together, then cool, I can see order within the chaos of my life. Or if you have the belief to say, like, I see a creator within all of life, and I'm going to align to that frequency and that structure, and I can see the sacred geometry in my existence. A big part of my life mission is to invite people into that level of peace and integrity and harmony, and see what happens when we drop into that state of being, and what life we create when we're in the perception, we're in the reality of that mindset and that frequency and that emotional state. And the more of us that can resonate there and come together and co-create together, that's how we make the paradigm shifts as a collective that we need.
Well said. Well, it has certainly been an hour or so.
Yeah, it's been great.
Fantastic to reconnect with you, Jackson, and I am really excited to hear how far you have come. Thank you for sharing so much of yourself with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure, my honor, and I do my best to share my struggles and successes in a way that inspires shifts in those that hear it. And I'm stumbling towards the light as best I can. And I'm honored to have been here to share some of the story and some of the systems that have helped me do that.
Appreciate it. And I'm sure our listening audience appreciates it as well.
Yeah. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right, fantastic. So thank you for listening to another episode of The Secret of My Success, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you for tuning in to The Secret of My Success, where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling life. I am your host, Erin Currin. If you have not already, please subscribe to our channel. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, please give us a like and feel free to share it with your friends. Until next time.